listening to CapConversation, the digital discourse of financial services today with Capco and guests. In today's episode, we'll be joined by Capco's Nic Parmaksizian. Nic will be sharing his fascinating journey to becoming our global head of digital, what makes him tick, and the genesis of Capco's Digital Innovation Labs, which brings together best-in-class PhDs, data scientists, designers, prototyping teams, and fintech to shake up the ever-changing world of financial services. Hey, welcome, Nic. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. All right, so Nic, you've had a very interesting career. You started out as a consultant, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, actually, I started in the soft drink industry. So I fancied being a marketeer, a brand manager in the soft drink industry. So I worked for Cadbury Schweppes.
Wow. I had no idea. That's kind of cool.
I know. I was actually promoting and launching an American drink in France, which wasn't a small task. So I was responsible for Dr. Pepper.
Oh, I know it well.
Right. Okay. So back in the days, that was my first job. And, really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun.
Do French people drink Dr. Pepper now?
Listen, I don't think it's that popular. And I have to admit as well, I wasn't in love with the taste. I didn't really tell anyone. But what was fun was that we used American football at the time to really advertise the drink. And, I got my first introduction to that sport and the whole American culture that came with that. So I did that for a short while. And then I went and did an MBA and realized actually that I really enjoyed variety of work, being exposed to various situations, clients' problems, and I honestly get bored pretty quickly. So out of my MBA, I sort of felt that consulting was right for me. It kind of gave me the opportunity to change relatively frequently,
right.
Meet a lot of people, kind of intellectually stimulating as well, being exposed to a variety of problems. So I joined what was known at the time Anderson Consulting, which became Accenture, and I was there for 7 years. What was pretty interesting at the time was that everybody had to go through computer programming course for about a month and a half. And I came in to this with philosophy background. So that wasn't exactly my calling.
What language did they make you learn?
C++. And
that's painful.
I know it was. But actually, I somehow got, I kind of enjoyed it in a weird way. I felt like the logic of it and the whole solving the puzzle
I was going to say, you seem like a very logical thinking person, and it is all about logic and understanding how the logic flows through a program.
I'm not sure how logical I am sometimes, but I really enjoy the problem solving part of it. And so I did that for a couple of years. I created software, especially during the dot-com boom of the early noughties. So I kind of helped build a bunch of e-commerce sites and brands, and that was a lot of fun. And then, so that sort of busted pretty badly, and then decided to move into financial services, still with Accenture, and really specialized in marketing and distribution strategy for our clients then. From that point on, my last client at Accenture actually hired me, and that was Barclays Bank. And they gave me the opportunity to be their head of innovation in the UK initially. And so I did that for a few years, which was great fun. Learned a lot, as much as I could about banking, about the importance of the customer and the experience, and really having kind of innovation with purpose.
Yeah.
So,
if you're not thinking about the customer, what's it for, really?
Right. And to be honest, that was pretty novel in the UK at the time.
Yeah.
Barclays had hired a team from the US, Diana Oppenheimer, who used to be the CEO of Washington Mutual. She came across with her management team, and I was part of that team. So I learned a lot from them. I learned really about the fact that in retail banking, retail is more important than banking in terms of,
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's, again, back to this notion that it's about the customer.
Right.
Much like retailers are all about the customer and the client experience, and, really thinking through the needs of the individual. There was, when I got there, I remember very clearly there was a situation where terrible mis-selling scandal where pensioners were sold lending products and couldn't repay them. So really, really pushing products for the sake of pushing the product without ever thinking about, actually, is this the right thing to do for the customer?
Right.
And she changed all of that. And it was a great time for me to be in the bank and to witness it and really learn firsthand about the importance, again, of doing the right thing by the customer and creating a culture really that isn't about selling at all cost, but actually really about servicing needs and offering the right products to the right customer.
More like playing the long game instead of the short game.
That's right.
Yeah.
So did that for a number of years and also got the opportunity to travel with Barclays. I was their marketing director in continental Europe for the bank, which was interesting, and I enjoyed it for the following reason. Barclays in the UK is one of the dominant domestic players, but when you go when you go to continental Europe or even sort of Africa, where Barclays was, you become a challenger overnight.
Right.
So marketing a challenger brand was a lot of fun, and just really kind of taking on the big players and trying to find a niche in the market, trying to go after those customers who have been sort of disappointed or disaffected by their existing providers, and also really trying to find a way of engaging the local community in a different way. I mean, you can already see that there is a pattern in my career where from Dr. Pepper to, Barclays as a challenger brand in Europe and now at Capco, I've always really loved working with the underdog.
Right. Well, I am starting to notice you like solving problems. And the problem was, how do I take down these big banks and find their gaps in their customer service? And you did that with Dr. Pepper, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, I think, just really I think it's part of it is obviously sort of really understanding who your customer is, but also I think it's about understanding who you're competing with.
Right.
And so going after those weaknesses and that make your competitors vulnerable. And so just being opportunistic in that way is really what you need to be able to sort of grow a challenger brand and be disruptive in the marketplace. And it was very fashionable to be running guerrilla marketing campaigns. So that's kind of what we did. Really surprised.
Those are fun.
Those are fun, right?
When there's no framework, you just make it up and you go and you can do so much creative stuff. I've done that in my past and I love it.
You did. Yeah. I had so much fun. I learned a lot, and just being in the direct contact with the customer and, just really surprising your competition, again, was great fun. I learned a lot from that.
What was your coolest guerrilla marketing campaign?
One of our competitors, I think it was, I don't know if I should say this, but I think it was an HSBC, I think, we're opening a new flagship branch, and just the idea of sort of in this sort of town. And then overnight, prior to them opening their new flagship branch in the city center, we pretty much painted the city center in blue. That's all we said. Barclays color is blue.
Right.
So we had a lot of, activities in the street and a lot of posters, and we had balloons, we had face painters, we had
nice.
And so essentially the attention that our competitor was hoping to get on their big opening day kind of got slightly disrupted.
Mine was, we were opening up, for those of you in New York City, City MD in Williamsburg. And what I did around Williamsburg was I used it's like an invisible paint that is water resistant. So when it rains, you can see the message on the sidewalk.
Oh, fun.
And so it was always, messages like, look up and don't miss life. Make sure you smile. All of these, smile. It's a beautiful day. And then I had my logo and everything. And the compliments I got for that was, tremendous. And there was no other business in the area that can compete, because as soon as it started raining, we were all over Williamsburg.
Wow.
And it was about $1,000 to pull that one off. So
that's a great idea.
So how do you think, now you're here at Capco. Tell us a little bit about your position here at Capco.
Yeah, so following all of those years at the bank and having learned a lot, I kind of knew as well that I really love working for challengers, and I also knew that I had learned a lot, and I wanted to kind of apply what I had learned with a number of other banks. So Capco just was an obvious choice to me for being entrepreneurial, disruptive, and really sort of wanting to kind of revolutionize the way consulting is done. So my role today is to run and manage our sort of digital consulting business across our international offices. So building, scaling, winning in a global scale when it comes to our clients' digital transformation needs. It's been a fun ride. I've been in this role really since 2015, when I feel that we started pretty much from a fairly low base. And so hiring the team, thinking about what sort of offerings do we want to take to clients, but also really, winning clients' confidence on the back of, our potential and, our ability to get something going has been, a lot of fun. I think we have a great team. I think we've had some fantastic client successes. I think we are now being recognized as being a serious player in this space, and that's been incredibly rewarding.
What has been the biggest challenge so far?
I think the biggest challenge for me is to maintain the integrity of the culture that we are trying to create when you are growing as fast as we are, and welcoming so many new fantastic colleagues every month with tons of talents. You still want to retain what's made you unique in the first place, which is this sense of, being entrepreneurial, creative, where, it should feel like this is your own business as well.
Right.
And again, as I said before, just really being a bit of a challenger to your own sort of sector. So the integrity of the culture and taking everybody with us on that journey and sort of maintaining that is, I don't think it's a huge challenge, but it is something that is top of mind.
Absolutely. It's one of the things I love about Capco. I always tell people when they're coming in, look, what I love about Capco is if something you want to change, you make the change. We're building this together. This is our company, and we can make it what we want it to be. We work together and we build this thing up together. And so I love the entrepreneurial spirit here. It's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about going back to a little bit earlier in your career. You've done a lot of mentoring. Tell us a little bit about what that means to you, and give us some examples of some great mentoring stories that you might have.
Look, I think I've been very lucky to get great mentors, first of all. So I got some fantastic mentoring pretty early on in my career.
So you're paying it forward now.
I feel so.
I love that.
A great sense of stewardship, and feel like I just feel that a mentor is somebody who's been in your shoes before and who is sharing their experience and wisdom with you. And I think that's just such a great gift. And so as such, having received that level of mentoring, I've also tried to do the same. But I'm also a qualified executive coach. And I think it's important to make the difference between mentoring and coaching. I feel like with mentoring, you might give somebody, the answer in the way of how you dealt with that situation in the past. Whereas as a coach, you probably help them sort of facilitate their own sort of process in coming to the answer. So in the way of mentoring, I've been mentoring a number of startups in the UK. I've been mentoring them in their sort of product life cycle, in the way they are approaching the fundraising, their pitching abilities. And I think what's been really interesting is how sometimes the energy and enthusiasm can, sort of blind you as a small team.
Yeah.
And I think there's some sort of, being able to see things for what they are and being super connected with the market and with what the end customer wants is where I've been trying to help a little bit.
Right.
As a coach, I also have had the opportunity to coach a number of entrepreneurs and even politicians, which has been really interesting. And obviously colleagues at Capco.
And well, what is your favorite startup that you've helped kind of mentor and be a part of?
Wow. There's a startup called Air that's in the UK as well that I've been working with that's specialized in using your social media data to credit score you. And I think it's great. I mean, being new to the US, for example, I can't really get credit because I don't have a score. I mean, I'm not, I don't have credit history here.
Right.
But if you are able to, based on your LinkedIn data and your Twitter data and, the people that who are in your network, I think you get a pretty good sense for who that individual might be. And based on that, being able to then offer some level of credit.
That's interesting. It's kind of like, I don't know if you know clout on the social media.
Yeah.
And so it's probably using some of those parameters, and that's really neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
I mean, we see so many cool startups these days.
Yeah.
And I think what's been interesting to witness is the level of maturity as well that some of the startups have gone through from, as I said, naive enthusiasm to actual real, business minds now who are behind some of this.
Yeah.
If you look back 5 years ago, at least in the UK, those ventures were awash with cash. Access to capital was not difficult. I'm not suggesting it is more now, but I think that investors are looking at it with a little bit more scrutiny. And it's not just about having a great idea. It's actually, there's a lot more that goes into it now.
And now you mentioned the enthusiasm and the optimism of a startup. How do you bring that and kind of instill that into the digital labs, which is something that I feel has a very entrepreneurial spirit and really does have this optimism where they can solve any problem you throw at?
That's great. Thank you for saying that. I think it starts with a vision. I feel that any startup or any organization with a startup mindset, and I would argue that Capco as a whole, although we are over 20 years old, I think we still behave as a startup because there's this great vision for what things could be. And that goes beyond who we are. And so having a great vision, being inspired every day by that vision is a super important element. I think giving people sufficient room to be creative, to be themselves, to bring who they are, flexibility, offering the opportunity to try things out and see what works, what doesn't work, facilitating collaboration, making sure that people are connected and fostering an important, a team spirit, having fun along the way as well.
I think that's important,
right?
Because we work very hard here, but if we're not having fun doing it, what's the point of it all?
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody who works at Capco, and I'm sure in this industry, would have plenty of other options offered to them. So I think you constantly need to remind yourself that, why are people coming to work and why am I at work today as well? So as I said, again, having that vision and that sort of goal that's more than just you, but, I think it's been super important and it's something that I've seen in the better startups that I've been working with.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about Digital Labs. What maybe share some wins or some exciting projects that they've accomplished or challenges that they've come against. Or
I think what's been great to watch with the labs is how quickly they've become such integral part of Capco and how attractive that proposition has been to our clients as well. And I think interestingly as well, how powerful, potent, it's been as a tool to win new clients and new relationships. Capco is very strong at fostering and growing relationships, and I think that sometimes going out and finding new logos can be a little bit more challenging. And the lab has been really great in this way, where they've been able to go to prospective clients and engage them in a way that we never did before, and without going with slides or sort of big documents about who we are, but actually putting our lab people front stage and having a conversation with the client about, well, tell us about some of your most complex problems, and give us an opportunity to show you what we can do. And that, I think, that's really disrupted, I suppose, and surprised some of our clients. I mean, I had a conversation a few hours ago with a client, and again, and another one yesterday, where they love that. They love this idea that actually you're not here to tell me something that I already know or I have heard from a number of other providers, but you're actually really attentive and empathizing with one of my biggest problems or complex problems, and you're offering to take it away for a couple of weeks and trying to see whether you can solve it. So that, I think, is something that the lab has done really, really well.
And I love that. I absolutely love that, because going in and saying, wait a minute, there's a whole new way you can look at this is absolutely amazing to me. And I love that you have a good background of people who aren't just financial services, but have a variety of different backgrounds who bring a lot of different perspectives to financial services, which I think helps us with the disruption and going out there and tackling challenges in ways that the financial services industry haven't thought of before.
Yeah, even sort of reflecting on this, I think I, for example, have also kind of changed my approach when we thought about who did we want to be in digital a few years back, and what did we want our positioning to be. At the time, it was very much focused on, well, let's help our clients accelerate delivery, because, Capco has got a reputation in delivering against all odds and, really taking on complex delivery programs and something that, we are good at. And so this is really where we went. But really, I think over time, what this has become is actually we can deliver, but what we can really do is take a step back and actually think about, is this even the right solution to deliver in the first place? Yeah. And so to your point, applying that sort of critical intellectual rigor to the problem you're trying to solve before actually putting boots on the ground and going after that sort of delivery and hitting that sort of, is something that we've matured and we've learned, and we are now helping our clients do as well.
The other thing I love is it always seems like you're tackling a problem that doesn't solve, well, let me rephrase that. It does solve an immediate problem, but it also kind of solves the problems 5 years, 10 years down the road. It's really trying to take a futuristic point of view for some of the things that I've seen come out of the lab.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's less about the solution, it's more about the problem. And I feel that if you really look at the problem in a different way and apply creativity to it, then no matter what the solution ends up being, there should be some level of longevity to it as well. Obviously, when we go through that process, we do a huge amount of checks and tests in the way of viability, feasibility, durability, desirability, all of those good things. But, to your point, that should essentially allow you to not have to revisit the same problem every year.
Love it. What do you think your biggest impact that digital is going to play on the financial services industry globally? Where do you think they're going to have the biggest impact?
Well, I think it's already happening, right? I think our clients have embraced this digital transformation for a little while now, more or less successfully. I think what's interesting to me is the greatest challenge isn't going to be when you talk about that digital transformation wave. It's not about the technology. It's really about their ability to absorb the change and transform the fundamentals of the business. So, a lot of what we talk to clients about nowadays is really about the culture and having the right culture in place to support that transformation. really looking at the structure of the organizations and those things that enable that culture. So, for example, it's all very well to talk about the importance of collaboration, but if you're not incentivized to collaborate, or if you haven't been given the tools to collaborate, then that ain't going to happen. Everybody is moving to agile, but again, if you haven't developed the skills and if you haven't given people the opportunity to work in a different way, then ain't going to happen either. So I think what's really exciting right now is that the focus has shifted, certainly in the last couple of years, from technology buzzwords to actual human fundamentals like motivation, needs, empathy, all of those, good and important themes. Because I often say technology will essentially automate a lot, but what will ultimately differentiate one organization to the next in this new world will be the human capital and their ability to create. So the creative factor. And we hear a lot now about that sort of creative currency.
Right.
I was talking to somebody yesterday where it's been great to witness how, nowadays having an art degree is almost as sought after as an engineering degree. Because
you mean I did make the right choice in college?
You did, absolutely. And that really excites me because, to see clients really going after that creative talent because they understand that's really what's going to differentiate them, in the end.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nic. I've learned a lot about you. I've loved talking to you today. And I look forward to seeing the great things that the Digital Labs do in 2020.
Thank you very much, Bobby.
Thank you. You've been listening to CapConversation, a Capco production. This podcast is for information only and should not and does not constitute consulting services.